This is Hemant.
And Jessica.
And you're listening to the Friendly Atheist Podcast. Go to patreon.com/Friendly Atheist Podcast. Thanks. And actually, I have a whole bunch of people we need to thank.
Oh, cool.
So thank you to everyone who donated in the past however long. Denise C., Tracy A., Noel H., Jim D., Chris C., Brian M., Lily T., Bethany W., Robert L., Felix V., Patrick D., Lorna N. Thank you so much. And the rest of you, why are you not on that list?
Patrick
what are you
Duffy
doing?
is contributing to our podcast?
It was a lovely gesture from him.
So nice.
How are you?
I'm doing okay. It's very cold out. When I was unlocking the door for Hemant, I realized the locks are iced over, which is a fun thing we deal with in the Midwest. And it doesn't even feel that cold out anymore.
Yeah, this is the nice weather compared to last week.
Yeah, last week. Thank you for your hashtag thoughts and prayers. My pipes unfroze an hour before I was hosting some friends for dinner party. So everything worked out really well. Nothing exploded.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm ready for winter to be fucking over.
Almost.
What am I doing in the Midwest?
Seriously.
I hate it.
Why do we live here? Who knows?
Nobody knows.
There are so many things I want to talk about, and we're going to finish this in an
action-packed.
hour. So, okay, here's the first one I wanted to bring up because they had the National Prayer Breakfast this week. They do it every year. They say it's a religious thing, right? National Prayer Breakfast.
Does it coincide with a religious holiday?
None.
Lunar New Year, I guess?
No.
Oh.
But it really turns into just evangelical celebration. That's all it is. And, of course, Donald Trump spoke there. These are the only people who don't hate him.
Yeah.
And he flubbed a line, so he ended up saying he wanted to praise religious leaders who were responsible for some of America's greatest accomplishments, including the, quote, abolition of civil rights.
Now, what was he supposed to be saying?
I think he was trying to say that they fought for abolition, they fought for civil rights, but of course he just said the abolition of civil rights, and then he didn't catch it.
Of course not.
Which is almost funny because, the people you're talking to in that room are responsible for getting rid of civil rights.
Good job, gentlemen.
I mean, the conservative Christians who make up his base, they do say, like, transgender people don't exist for real. Gay marriage shouldn't count. It's not a real marriage. They still oppose the Equal Rights Amendment for women, as we talked about, I think, last week. The Trump administration just gave a Christian foster agency permission to discriminate against people who are not
things.
Christians.
Definitely looking out for the children.
If you look at the history of, like, the religious right, while kind of now they're known for being anti-gay marriage, anti-abortion, before that all kicked in, they were against integration. I mean, a lot of these conservative Christian groups oppose... I mean, Bob Jones University, we've talked about in the past, one of the hardcore Christian fundamentalist schools in the country, they banned interracial dating until 2000. Like, they were...
2000?
Yeah, Jerry Falwell Jr., the Liberty University guy.
That's the next millennium.
Jerry Falwell Jr., the guy who runs Liberty University, was all like, yeah, we fought for integration and all that stuff. And everyone was responding, dude, your dad started a separate school so they wouldn't have to go to school with black people. What are you talking about? So Trump screwed up and accidentally told the truth. So congratulations to him.
Quiet part out loud.
I don't know if you've heard this one because it just happened today, at least in my understanding of it.
Friday morning.
No,
so Friday afternoon, it's 1 p.m. Whoops.
Here's the story. They're in Tennessee. You know how federal funds cannot be used to pay for abortions because, what is that, the Hyde Amendment? Like, they don't allow federal funds to directly fund abortions or reimburse you if you have it as a medical procedure. But some federal funds are like, they reimburse Planned Parenthood for conducting women's health in other ways, right? And people hate that too. Well, in Tennessee, one of the Republican lawmakers in Tennessee, his name is John Reagan, whatever. He just filed a bill that says no taxpayer money can be used to subsidize abortions. And that's, I mean, okay, what else would you expect from a Republican?
Right.
But here's on what grounds. He didn't say we shouldn't do it because who cares why it's a bill, just pass my bill. He said we can't do it because the belief that abortion, and this is directly quoting from the bill, this belief that abortion is not murder, or that abortion is not immoral, or that life does not begin at conception, those are, quote, unproven faith-based assumptions that are implicitly religious and are unproven truth claims that are linked to the religion of secular humanism.
So I recognize most of those as words.
Right. Here's what he's saying. If you are pro-choice and you're saying, well, abortion isn't murder, which isn't a political position, it's a moral one on your end.
Well, and it's also a legal thing. Like,
that too.
Murder is a legal term.
Yeah. And he's saying, like, if you are supportive of abortion and you want the government to pay for it in any way, you are really saying the government should be paying for my religious beliefs as an atheist, to put it crudely. Like, and that violates church-state separation, and therefore we can't do it because it would be unconstitutional. So this is exactly what he's saying. That the Establishment Clause prohibits the state of Tennessee from enforcing, respecting, recognizing, favoring, or endorsing policies that fund abortion facilities with tax dollars because the practices are non-secular in the generic way. And such appropriations, blah, 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 would excessively tangle the government with the religion of secular humanism, putting religion over non-religion. So he's really fighting for us as atheists and church-state separation advocates, saying giving money for abortion is promoting religion, and it's promoting like an atheistic religion, and the Constitution doesn't let us support support religion. So really, he's just a defender of the wall of separation between church and state, and abortion's just atheist religion, something, something.
That is...
How twisted.
That is so dumb. I do not think we should spend another moment dissecting it and talking about why he's wrong, because there is not a single thing he got right in there.
So he's implying that the anti-choice position is not religious in any way.
In any way.
None whatsoever. And by the way, so as soon as I saw that, I'm like, there's no way. I mean, this guy has to be full of shit.
Yes.
The question is, how is he full of shit? It's kind of like... If you're in Virginia right now and you're saying, well, that Democratic governor's yearbook had blackface, he was in blackface, so like, there, you know, he's got to go.
Right.
It's like, dude, you're a Republican. I know there's shit in your past. We just got to figure out where it is.
Oh my God.
So in this case, it's like, all right, I know this guy's full of shit. Where is it? So the first place I was like, well, let me look at what other bills this guy has supported. I'll start with this year and work my way back. It took all of like 2 minutes.
Really?
Yeah. Here's the bill he's a sponsor of from January.
Last month?
Like
or January 2018?
Like 2 weeks ago. Here's a bill he sponsored 2 weeks ago. And I'm paraphrasing, but not really. We should change our constitution, the state constitution, to say our liberties do not come from government, but from Almighty God.
Sure, that feels like a really effective use of the government.
So that apparently is not promoting religion over non-religion.
Yeah,
but using taxpayer funds to pay back women who get abortions, that is religious.
God is secular and secular humanists are religious.
Obviously.
I don't know why this is so complicated for you to keep straight.
Yeah.
Oh,
So Tennessee Republican for the loss? I don't know.
I want to do a story that is, it's just a quick one and it has no weight and I just find it really amusing.
Yes.
So at Ocean Manor Beach Resort in Fort Lauderdale in Florida, a 20-foot tall cross washed up on shore. And nobody really knows where it is. I guess it's painted, so it's definitely like a cross, not just like two intersecting beams. Yeah, it's not like intersecting beams or whatever.
So it's a sign.
So it's a sign. So there's just been a lot of like people going down to pray at it, which like I don't have any problem necessarily with it. Like whatever, live your life.
Don't worry, Florida. There'll be a lot of stuff washing up because your whole state will be underwater.
The resort's owner said it was a sign of protection. He thought it was divine intervention. And he thinks that because before the cross appeared, his sister had been at the beach that day praying because she'd had a bad dream, which is cool if true, I guess. Like if you have a dream, you go to the beach and pray and a fucking cross walks up. That's dope as hell. But here's what there's two things I want to point out. Like, so they've dragged it up the beach. They're just kind of keeping it as a little like tourist attraction. People can take pictures.
All right.
Whatever. I really could not care less. But people were. This is the part that sort of destroys me. People have no idea where it came from, right? And somebody suggested, or people have been kind of brainstorming where it could be. And a lot of people are saying Puerto Rico, which makes a lot of sense, which means that this cross was broken off likely in Hurricane Maria, where thousands of people died and floated to Florida. And like,
it's a sign from
it's like
God,
a blood
indeed.
cross.
Yeah.
But I think my favorite, and so people are like on Facebook, like, oh, have faith and whatever. That I think this is the ultimate, aside from the possible connection with Puerto Rico. It's a very harmless thing of like, we see a cross, it means something to us. But sorry, it's so funny. Some commenters on the resorts page also interpreted the cross as a design signal. As a divine signal. Others offered more prosaic theories. Quote, one man said, probably from an old pirate ship. That's what held up the sails. Believe in something real, people.
Yeah, thank you. Oh my God.
And he's on our side.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, defo pirate ships. That's the most
That is where my mind goes when I see a cross. It's all the pirates praying before they loot and pillage everywhere.
He thinks it's like a mast sail,
Yeah.
like as if like a 17th century pirate ship, everything broke off except for the mast in a perfect cross form, and it's been floating around the Atlantic for hundreds of years. Like,
Jesus has weird ways to send signs.
It just tickled me. It's such a dumb story, but it really made me giggle. Anyway.
That's the only appropriate response. At least you're not praying
Because
to
this
it.
is so absolutely the thing of like, you see a cross and you pray to it. That's totally fine. You see a symbol and it means something to you. That's totally fine. But just like people like losing their shit over it.
But it's
a
pirate ship.
But it's a pirate ship, says the one guy trying to speak up for the secular side. Thanks, dude. We'll just handle that side over here.
In the Democrats now control the U.S. House. Okay.
Yes.
So one of
Good
the things
news.
that happens is that they run all the different subcommittees, right? They're now the ranking members, which means when witnesses come to testify, it's the ranking member, the Democrat, who administers the oaths to all the witnesses, saying, hey, you're going to testify, you're going to tell the truth, all right.
Right.
But all of those oaths, traditionally, at least recent traditionally, they always end, so help me God. Well, there was a big kerfuffle last week because the U.S. House Committee on Natural Resources, a draft version of how are we going to run the committee now, like what are the new rules, a draft of those rule changes circulated and ended up on Fox News. And one of the changes said the default oath given to witnesses for this committee does not have the word "so help me God." They crossed that one off. Now, they did not pass that rule change.
Sure.
And it's unclear how seriously they were going to even take it. But it was there, and the words were crossed out. As far as I know, that was a legit draft of the rule changes. But okay, after that happened, it's like, of course, conservatives were like, oh, look, they're trying to get rid of God. It's like even the Democrats who spoke up about it were like, it was a proposal or something, but we didn't support it.
Right.
Whatever. Okay, so then a couple of days ago, there was another person. This is in the House Judiciary Committee, one of the bigger ones.
Okay.
This is the one that's interviewing Matt Whitaker, the acting attorney general, today. Democratic Representative Jerry Nadler is the chair of that one. And so he was getting witnesses to swear the oath. And earlier this week, before everyone was paying attention, like today, he left out the phrase, "so help me God," when he administered the oath. And then a Republican spoke up, Mr. Chairman, point of parliamentary inquiry. We had a conversation on the floor last week, and I just noted you left out, "so help me God." Here's Nadler's response. Oh, sorry. Do you want me to repeat I will repeat. I would love that. Thank you, said the Republican. All right, please stand up again, Nadler says. And then he said the oath, and then he said, "so help you God," and they said, "so help me God." And then they moved on. It was a non-issue,
Sure.
right? As far as I know, he did it accidentally, whatever. Okay, here's where I want to get to. Now there's another subcommittee, the House Energy and Commerce Subcommittee on Oversight. This one is run by a woman, Representative Diana DeGette. She was swearing in witnesses. They're talking about the Trump administration's, and I quote, inhumane family separation policy. And when she swore witnesses in, she also left out, so help me God. And here's I'm quoting this from this is a Christian website. This is their summary of the thing. When Representative Jeff Duncan, a Republican, reminded DeGette of the omission, she indicated that it was intentional.
Yeah, girl.
This is the oath we use, and that's the oath we're going to use today, said DeGette, who then moved on with the hearing.
That is dope as hell.
She got no coverage for that, but she should totally get coverage for that.
That's very cool.
And I can't, as far as I know, she has never been on my radar as like one of the secular side of things. But as far as I can tell, she's just like, yeah, we're not doing that. Shut the hell up. Let's move on and talk about how Trump's ripping families apart. So,
like, if you're here for this and that's what you're concerned about, maybe we need to reassess our priorities.
Yeah.
Hi.
Do you want to talk about Duck Dynasty guy?
Yes,
we have to talk about Duck Dynasty
you.
guy. Okay, the setup for this is Kamala Harris had suggested, who's running for president, Democratic senator, she suggested like a Medicare for all type of healthcare plan, and he was brought in as the expert on Fox Business Network because, you know, he's the business guy. And Neil Cavuto, the host of that show, is like, hey, Phil Robertson, the patriarch of Duck Dynasty, what do you think about healthcare?
Okay, first of all, I want to say I copied and pasted an article so I could skim some notes, and I usually bold things that I want to make sure I hit, and I realized I had bolded the entire thing because every word he said was gold. Can we just read it beginning to end?
You have to imitate him, otherwise it doesn't count.
I genuinely do not know what he sounds like. I assume Southern? Are they in the South?
They are.
Okay, I'm not going to do that. Nobody needs that in their ears. Contrary to what Kamala Harris said, she says, elect me and everything's free. Look, everybody can have their own health care. The government's going to finance the whole thing. It's not going to cost but $30 trillion. Which it's not going to cost but $30 trillion is a really charming turn of phrase. I'm offering you the greatest deal you've ever had. Elect me and everything will be free. And then the interviewer was like, but she's saying other people have been getting away with financial murder to pay for it, blah, blah, blah. What I'm saying is, Kamala, I already have health care. It's given to me by God, eternal health care. I'm guaranteed to be raised from the dead by Jesus. I have life and immortality given to me by God through Jesus. The interviewer pushes back, but people get sick on earth in their human form.
If you saw Seth Meyers on his show, and he was mocking this too, and he's like, let me repeat this thing that was actually said on television. And then he repeated Neil Cavuto's line right there. What was it?
But people get sick on earth in their human forms.
Thank you for pointing out the obvious.
Robertson interrupted. The temporary reprieve is not worth it. I'm telling her, I have eternal health care and it's free. Doctors can give you temporary reprieve, but they cannot save you from physical death. The doctors who treat you, they die too.
So he informed us about mortality. Thank you.
Cavuto,
Fox always on the breaking
Cavuto,
news.
But you're not dismissing that we people need health care, right? Robertson says, I didn't have health care for 50 years. And someone says, now I'm rich and famous, so I said, Miss K, you can buy every kind of insurance known to man if you want to, but I've never needed it for 50 years. So there you go.
So then I guess no one else needs it either.
He literally capped it off. So there you go.
Mic drop.
Check and mate, my dude. Argue with that.
Yeah.
He didn't need it for 50 years.
But the moment he or someone in his ginormous family gets actually sick in the human form.
Yeah, they're human earth form.
I want to know if he's going to take them to a hospital or if he's just going to pray over them. Of course he is.
I call bullshit. He never needed a doctor in 50 years.
There's no way that guy has not ever needed a doctor.
It's possible that he didn't. I guess it's possible. It is a cultural thing. Like a lot of people from more rural areas do not go to doctors, but 50 years is a long-ass time to never go to a doctor.
And he's gonna need one soon at some point. We all do.
his earth body is going to start crumbling.
But this idea that no one else needs health care because Jesus will raise you from the dead. Again, immortality is fine and all, but I also want this part to be as long as possible before the immortality begins.
And like he skims through, doctors can give you temporary reprieve. Yeah, I would like that, please. Don't
ease
say that
the
as
suffering
if
before.
He says that as if like, well, if you're into not being in horrible pain, I guess, or like if you want to stop pooping and throwing up, like whatever, it's just a temporary reprieve before you're like it's.
The sad part is there are Christians who believe that. I mean, the
100%.
Christian scientists who are like, never see a doctor, just pray over it. This is what God wants.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Phil Robertson. This is news to me this week. There's a state legislator in Arizona. His name is Juan Mendez. He's a state senator. He's one of the few openly atheist state senators in the country. Really good. I mean, legislatively progressive. He's a good guy. So it turns out there is a system in Arizona, and this exists in many states, where you can buy a specialty license plate. It's not the default one that everyone gets. It might have a design that you want. And if you pay the extra fee, it's not exorbitant or anything, but if you pay the extra fee, some of that money goes to maybe a nonprofit organization that is connected to that. So maybe you buy a veterans license plate, and it goes to a veterans group. All right, fine. So it turns out there is an In God We Trust license plate, a specialty plate in Arizona. And if you go to the state's website, it says you pay $25 a year, basically, to get this. $17, and I'm quoting here, $17 goes to promote the national motto, In God We Trust, First Amendment rights, and the heritage of the state and nation. That's what the description says it goes to, which sounds about right for like something conservative Christians are going to like. What they don't say is where that money is actually going. It says, like, these are the things we're promoting with it, but how? Like, who's getting the money to do this? So Juan Mendez found out. Guess where it's going?
Where? Tell me.
Alliance Defending Freedom, the Christian legal group that is called a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center because they're rabidly anti-LGBTQ rights. So it basically, a Christian hate group is getting all this money, and he found out since 2008 when that plate went into effect, so more than a decade now, it's given more than $1 million in fees to the Alliance Defending Freedom. So Arizonans are paying this money. It's going to a Christian hate group in the name of In God We Trust.
Right.
And they don't, here's the thing. If you want that to happen, all right, fine, I'll judge you for other reasons, but this is not public information.
I was going to say, how hard is it to find out where that goes?
It's still not on their website.
Really?
So, like, I don't know how he found this out, but it is apparently accurate. And the state didn't say anything about this, but here's what Mendez did in response to finding out about this, and he's only just getting started. He filed 2 bills in particular. The first one is basically a transparency bill, and what it would do, under the new bill, the Department of Transportation would be required to maintain a database with the name and mission of every entity receiving funds from specialty plates.
Good.
That seems pretty obvious.
Yeah.
I don't know how successful it might be because I don't believe Democrats are in the majority in these in Arizona's legislature. But it's a sensible thing. Like, just say it's ADF.
Well, it's not even saying you can't donate to this because it's a hate group. It's saying, like, make sure people know what their money is going to.
Right. Transparency. Is that a problem, right? And all he said, when the Secular Coalition of Arizona, like the state affiliate there, they put out a press release saying, like, Arizonans deserve to know exactly where their tax dollars are going.
Yeah.
And Arizonans who are unwitting, like, people who should know about this include Arizonans who are unwittingly funding attacks on the rights of their neighbors. Maybe they don't know that because they think it's going to an In God We Trust group, a generic Christian
like
sort of thing. Not a group that's fighting against these things, but let them know it. What are you afraid of? Okay, Mendez also filed another. Here's the thing. Like you said, he can't stop the money from going there if it's a legit nonprofit, which it is. Like, they followed all the rules to establish the plate.
Right.
So we can't just say, like, well, we're discriminating against Christians or anything like that by not allowing it to go to this group. What he did say is he filed another bill that would just repeal that plate in particular, the In God We Trust plate, from the fees going to different groups. Like, they're out of the specialty plate system altogether.
Oh.
He can do that because the rule just says anything that's a specialty plate gets fees going to certain groups. Well, his other bill basically revised that law, so it includes every plate except that one. And so that one, I don't know that it will get anywhere, personally. But the first one, the transparency bill, should.
What would an argument against that be?
Which one?
About the transparency.
Republicans don't like transparency because it makes them look bad. That's the argument against it. If you let people know what they're doing, they're going to look bad. If you let people vote, they're not going to vote for these people. It's the same idea that if you give people choice and knowledge of what's actually happening, they're never going to vote for people like Trump. That's the argument I can think of. I don't know what else there is.
I don't, and I think about this all the time of like, I genuinely try to like get in their shoes and say like, what do they think they're doing? What is and like there are things that I'm like, okay, I see what your point of view is, right? I see that you think abortion is killing babies en masse, and so I at least can see where you're coming. This feels like a fucking no-brainer. The same thing as like voting bills, of making it easier to vote. Like I got in an argument of this guy of like, what about self-responsibility? And I was like, it's not even about that. It's just, why are there any barriers to vote? Period. It should be the easiest fucking thing in the entire world. And like somebody else is like, oh, we don't need a national holiday because it takes me 10 minutes to vote. Took you 10 minutes to vote. It takes some people 3, 4, 5 hours standing in line to vote. Like, what are you talking about? Can you pull your head out of your own ass for a second?
Again, if you give people options and you make it easy for poor people to vote and minorities to vote, Republicans know it's going to hurt them in the long run, so they'll do whatever they can to stop it. If you make it transparent where this hate money is going, people are going to be upset about it, so they'd rather give money to these hate groups quietly because that's their base. Those are the people who fund their campaigns. What else? I don't know. Anyway, let me do a personal one.
You go.
Here's a personal one. So a couple months ago, I read, I'm living in Downers Grove right now, a suburb of Chicago.
Yeah, I forgot you're living in Downers Grove. You used to live in Will County, and so I called some hard bullshit on you.
You did.
Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, I'm not living there anymore, so I'm living in Downers Grove. I'm living nearby in DuPage County. And I found out a couple months ago that the newly elected board members, who were elected, I believe, in November, they were, one of the first things they did when they had their county council meetings is they brought up the fact that we do invocations at these meetings, and maybe we should rethink that because, you represent more than just Christians here. Of course, yeah, that's a fair point.
Right.
And I read that, and I'm like, I didn't even realize this was an issue where we live in our area. But yeah, I mean, it's not that they never invite non-Christians, but predominantly it's Christians.
Right.
And that was the point that they were bringing up, that it's like, we're way more diverse than this invocation suggests, so maybe we should get rid of it. But they haven't gotten rid of it yet. It wasn't something they voted on. It was just, we should talk about this.
Sure.
Well, as soon as I read that, I'm like, wait a minute, I live here now. And so I emailed one of the council members who had raised that point. I'm like, well, I live here. I want to deliver an invocation. Tell me what to do. The email was literally that short. I'm just saying, like, yeah, I live here. I want to give one. I'm an atheist, by the way. Tell me what to do. She wrote back pretty quickly and is like, yeah, all right, I'll pass along your name. Like, it was, I'm paraphrasing, but that was the gist of it.
Yeah.
I didn't hear back for a little while. And so, like, I think after a month, I bumped up that thread. I'm like, hi, I'm still interested.
Yeah.
Just trying to see what's going on here. And they wrote back like, oh, I'm sorry I didn't respond. Like, we did pass your name along. We weren't kidding about that. Maybe there was whatever the holdup was. It happens. But they said with other people CC'd in the email, like, no, they got your name. I think they're going to get in touch with you in a day or two. So anyway, they did. They scheduled me. I'm giving an invocation on March 12th.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah. They didn't give me any restrictions or anything. I even had said, like, I mean, do you have any rules about things, time limit or anything? They basically wrote back and said, yeah, there's some time limit. I mean, they really were pretty lax about it.
Don't be an asshole about it. How about that?
Yeah, pretty much. They implied it. They didn't say it. So, but anyway, I just want to point out, like, one, cool. I'm glad they didn't. Here's the thing. I would rather they get rid of the invocations altogether. But if you're going to have them, then it's kind of our responsibility to say, well, we're not Christians and we want to be a part of this.
Right.
What are you going to do about it? And in this case, they said, yeah, all right, fine. Get in the mix.
That's cool.
So good.
It's very exciting.
I don't know what I'm going to say yet. If you have suggestions, let me know. But that is happening. So I was excited that they handled it properly, at least. Because in other places, when we've talked about invocations and a Satanist or a pagan or an atheist wants to do it, they get a lot of obstacles.
A lot of lawsuits happen that way.
Lots of them.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm very excited for you. Congrats, bud.
Thanks.
Do you have good news or bad news?
Good news.
Oh, okay.
So we're not talking about the sex slaves in the Catholic Church yet.
No, that's
All right.
next.
All right.
Before we get there, though.
Yes.
New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy just signed new legislation into law, and it requires students to be taught the societal contributions of notable LGBTQ people throughout history. And that's just generally very good news. Christian,
Yes, I like knowledge in schools.
Right, it's pretty excellent. Christian Fuscarino, who is the executive director of the Garden State Equality, executive director of the group Garden State Equality, she said, Christian is a doesn't matter. They said it's critical that that our classrooms highlight the achievements of LGBTQ people throughout history. Our youth deserve to see how diverse American history truly is, and how they can be part of it one day too.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And I wonder, I'm kind of curious, who are these people who are deciding, you know what? No, we're not going to talk about certain people. Alan Turing, whoever it is, we're not going to talk about them,
right?
Because they're controversial or something. But yeah, sensible.
Yeah.
It's just it's not even something we should have to celebrate.
I mean, it's just similar in the way that we had to make a special effort to highlight the roles women played in history, the roles people of color played in history.
Why weren't you doing that already?
Right. Well, because history books have, by and large, been written by white dudes, and they love to talk about themselves.
I just saw something this morning. They just announced the House subcommittee on climate change. So Democrats appointed, who's going to be on there. And they put on their... of course, I can't remember the name. But they put someone who I know respects science and is a scientist. And it's just you put a scientist on the climate change subcommittee, or at least someone who respects science. That shouldn't be news.
Right.
But it kind of is.
I mean, it's like when Justin Trudeau put his cabinet together and the person who ran the education board is a former teacher, or what had an educational background. The person in the science wing was a fucking scientist. This isn't that hard. Just because you got elected to office doesn't mean you're suddenly an expert on shit that you do not. And it's not a dig on anybody in particular, but there is no reason anybody should claim to be a climate change expert if they don't have that background.
Right.
And it's not,
and don't care about the issue, or you're Betsy DeVos and you're running education, even though you don't do education, and no one in education has any respect for you.
Yeah.
Why would you be running it? Because,
so bad.
Speaking of which, that's a good segue. Here we go.
Is it?
In Poland, where it's predominantly Catholic, and the legislature is kind of overrun by Catholic conservative politicians. There is now a popular politician. I'm going to compare him to someone like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or Bernie Sanders, kind of the upstart who has a lot of liberal, progressive support. He happens to be a gay atheist, and he's a progressive, a gay atheist. And his name, I'm going to pronounce it wrong, Robert Biedron. He just launched this week a political party of his own in order to see how many of his people can get elected in the elections, which are happening later this year. And he is a member of parliament, but he's kind of a lone wolf in that sense, but he is popular. So he just launched a political party to get more people on his side. Now, here's the upside. Yeah, in theory, if he had all that support, he could kind of upend this traditionally religious government. The downside is, and this is coming from other progressives, you're not that popular to win over all those seats.
Yeah.
You're just popular enough to pull a Howard Schultz and just take away votes from other, not as progressive, but still pretty progressive politicians who could actually win some elections.
Yeah.
And that's the fear of this guy, that you're going to pull support from people who actually need it, and it's going to be bad for all of us.
Yeah, I think about that a whole lot. When you see anybody running third party, And that's what makes me nervous when people, like around 2016, when people were really mad that Sanders didn't get the nod from the Democrats, people were like, well, we shouldn't have a two-party system. And like whether or not that's true is debatable, but the solution isn't to spin off a more progressive group, because all you're going to do is divide up people who are on the left, and we're going to lose a shitload more seats. I think the more pragmatic solution, which isn't sexy, is just get more liberal people to run for office, for national office, get more Congress, get more AOCs in office, and that's how we make change.
Nancy Pelosi is not necessarily beloved by all progressives, but she's fine. And by the way, when you elect people like Cortez or anyone else who is super progressive, and they have her support,
right,
it elevates everybody.
Right.
And they're all kind of doing their thing, and it's working. Now give them even more power and see what happens.
So
I don't know if this guy is necessarily good or bad for Poland. It depends on how much support he finds in the coming months for himself and the other candidates there.
Interesting.
So whatever.
Cool.
I have one last story here that I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
And this is a quick one, but let me tell you about 3 quick lawsuits that were going on without any. I'm sorry. Whatever. Here's 3 lawsuits. Here's the quick rundown. Freedom from Religion Foundation versus Lehigh. It's all about a Christian cross that appears on a county seal in Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
There's a lawsuit over, you got to take the cross out of a seal. You can't have that. It's promotion of religion. There's another one about whether the government, U.S. government, should give religious leaders tax breaks for housing. So, like, if you're a pastor, you can get a housing, like, exemption, so you don't have to pay taxes on your house. And that's a sweet perk if you're a religious leader.
Sure is.
Atheists or even atheist leaders of organizations don't get that benefit.
Right.
Freedom FFRF is fighting over that one. There's also another one. Can atheists deliver the invocation in the U.S. House of Representatives? There's a lawsuit over that because they said no to that.
Really?
Yeah. So 3 lawsuits involving the Freedom from Religion Foundation. They're all kind of in the court system right now. And here's the thing. These are all lawsuits that because of the government we have right now, they got, like, support and amicus briefs, and other state attorneys general have filed on saying, yeah, we're against FFRF in all of these cases. Well, in Michigan, they just elected a new attorney general, Dana Nessel, and she's a progressive. And one of her big acts she announced this week is that she's pulling the state of Michigan, and therefore her lawyers who might have been working on these cases, she's pulling them off of these 3 cases and other ones that were anti-gay and anti-women.
Dope.
She decided, we're not playing this game anymore.
Right.
We're not supporting these lawsuits. So we're out. You guys are on your own. Doesn't mean the lawsuits are over or they're not going to get opposition from conservatives. But again, she just doesn't want to waste resources on stupid battles.
Good.
And what she actually said is, I will not use this office to undermine some of the most important values in our state, including those involving reproductive rights and the separation of church and state. This is why it matters, not just when you vote, but having progressives in all these powerful positions, not just the governor's seat, which they got in Michigan now, but also as attorney general, because now they're fighting actual fights that matter instead of these silly Christian-led ones that they shouldn't be fighting.
That's really awesome. Cool. So I guess all that's left is a brief history of sexual abuse in the papacy.
Please, you got 2 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to dig into it too much because whatever, but it's interesting that Pope Francis, he's in the Middle East right now, and he just admitted that clerics have sexually abused nuns. In one case, they were kept as sex slaves. They have been forcing nuns to get abortions if they got pregnant. He admitted his predecessor, Pope Benedict, was forced to shut down an entire congregation of nuns, all of whom were being abused by priests. He said, Francis said the church was attempting to address the problem, but it is, quote, still going on.
No kidding.
No duh. Anyway, so listen, this isn't new and this isn't surprising, but that's good that
Pope
the Pope is
admitting-
admitting it. Baby steps,
Yeah.
baby steps, baby steps.
I mean, baby steps that should have happened decades ago.
yes, but that's the definition of fucking baby steps, though. Is like we're heading into the right
I
direction.
mean, baby steps when you're like 25 years old. I don't know how much credit you get for that. But again, you're right. Like, all right, you admit it. Like, you're finally admitting what all those critics of the Catholic Church were saying forever ago.
Right.
And so for all the fights from the Catholic Church, like, you guys are exaggerating the problem. You're making a big deal out of something that is no different than, say, a public school where you have some bad eggs. It's like, no, we were right all along about the church
Right.
being a specifically, like, uniquely awful place where
Right.
this stuff happens. We were right about that.
Yeah,
Surprise.
there's
Thanks,
Vatican's women's magazine, which I did not know that exists, Women Church World. They condemned the abuse, saying some nuns were forced to abort priests' children, which Catholicism forbids, lest we forget.
Because they got pregnant because a priest raped them or got them pregnant?
Yep, the magazine's editor, Lucida Scarafia. My Italian grandparents are rolling over in their grave.
Yeah.
They said that his acknowledgement could, quote, can be of some help, but warned that the church needs to act. Quote, if the church continues to close its eyes to the scandal, the condition of oppression of women in the church will never change. So anyway, yeah. So
Tell
that's
me, what else appears in this Vatican women's magazine
that's
than
what
that?
I'm wondering, like, is it just run by, what do they talk about?
Yeah. Hey, we
Like-
don't have any here.
Are
Bye.
there any, like, are there
Not
nuns in the
Catholic.
Vatican?
I mean, nuns, yeah, there aren't Catholic.
Like, oh, we had gruel again
leaders.
today. I don't know. Everything I know about nuns, I know from Sister Act.
Nice,
They
yeah.
hate gruel and
This is why we don't let you run the church.
just super, super, super quick.
Yeah, please.
A judge in Kansas, Leavenworth County District Judge Michael Gibbons said that so there was a case against a 67-year-old gentleman who was soliciting two minors, two female minors, a 13-year-old and a 14-year-old. Quote, I do find that in the victim's case in particular, we're more an aggressor than a participant in the criminal conduct.
He said the teenage girls were aggressors in a case in which they were assaulted.
Yeah.
Just double checking.
So cool as usual. Nothing's changed ever. And ending on a good note,
Yes.
that we talked about it a little while ago. There was a church in the Netherlands that held a nonstop service to prevent some refugees from being booted.
Because the law says, like, if they're praying, government officials can't enter the service. So they just said, all right, we're just going to pray forever.
Yeah. So it just ended 96 days later. The refugees have been, I believe they're good. They're still based out of the church. Like, they're still living in the church, but they're free to, like, leave it a little bit. Dirk Stegman, who's one of the organizers of the service, said, and I think this is a nice quote, this is just the beginning. I hope it's a new way of being a church, a new way of having an impact on society, and a new way of standing up for vulnerable people. So I thought that was really nice.
Look, something nice.
Yes.
That's how you take a stand.
Anything you want to talk about or plug or say that is good in your life?
No.
God, this weather.
I'm coaching. Coaching is going well. We got 2
Yeah.
more weeks and then I'm done.
Oh, I'm so excited for you to be done. It's going to make our schedule so much easier. Friday night, I recorded a new episode of Fables, which is the erstwhile bonus podcast that I do with friends. We read a book and then record on it and just sort of enjoy each other's company. It was my friend Ann Bolano, who's been a co-host before, and we read 2 books, really only talked about one of them. It was so much fun.
Do I get to find out which book you talked about?
Oh, yeah, I think I mentioned it before. So we each read a book that we've both been like dealing with a lot of, stress because it's 2019 and that's just sort of the state of the world. So we're like, let's read a book, but let's read like the lightest book. So we read a YA novel called The Uglies that she read when she was a teenager.
Okay.
And we read probably genuinely my favorite book of all time, which is a romance novel by Nora Roberts that I have honestly maybe read 15 times in my life. It's called Jewels of the Sun, and spoiler alert, Anne fucking loved it. I think I changed her life with the addition of allowing some little like frivolity, and you're not like a non-intellectual if you read Romance novels, because they're great. Also, I have to recommend, just like everybody does, watch the Fire Festival docs. It just reaffirms.
I saw one of those.
Which one did you see? The Hulu one?
The Hulu.
Okay, that's the one I've seen too. Where I'm
That's the one with the Fire Festival guy.
Yeah, he's
right?
interviewed, and he is
Yeah.
just the epitome of like a nothing white dude who just happened to grow up in privilege, and it's just the whole theme of
His
it
whole
is,
life is just scamming people.
his whole life is scamming people and thinking somebody's going to come in and rescue him. And spoiler alert, he's in jail right now. So, but two more things.
It's one of those movies you watch. You're like, I hope all of you who bought tickets lose.
Yeah,
who's the good guy in that movie? I couldn't really tell.
There was no good guy. I watched it with Mikey. And
I didn't even like the talking heads who were like, let me tell you about the scammer.
Extremely funny though. Some of them said some shit that was like straight up and down hilarious. There's a really amazing part when it's their social media guy, and he's like, we had to start blocking all of blocking scam, blocking whatever, blocking
because
logistics.
Everyone was talking about scams in relation to
and so
our
he
thing.
like gives all this long list, and he's like, and then I had to rewrite that list in caps because so and so doesn't know how tags work, and it made me laugh so fucking hard. That was great. Thank you for the people who have been sending mean emails about me. Even though they're to me, they're about me. I did read them over dinner to my friends, and we had a nice laugh at y'all. And last but certainly not least, my brother's engaged.
Hey.
My big brother, Kevin, just got engaged. Congratulations to him and Maggie. They're getting married in August, and they asked me to officiate the wedding.
Look at you.
So I cried for 4 days straight. And I'm going dress shopping with Maggie this weekend. I'm super stoked about it. And yeah, things are looking good. If this winter could just wind up.
Yeah.
I'm really fucking over it.
Something, a groundhog did something. I heard it's all ending very soon now.
Yeah. It's coming up. You can follow me on Twitter at Blueberry, BLUEBURIE. Hemant.
I'm at Hemant. Meta. Had to think about it for a second.
You sure did. It's your name, my dude.
Sure.
If you want to email, we got a couple of emails about the gay and Mormon, being gay in Mormon church, and I do want to get to that. I just didn't have time to compile that for today. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, email us at friendlyatheispodcast@gmail.com. I just got a custom order from a listener for my Etsy site, so I'm working on that. You can go to Bitches Get Stitched Done, and I can do whatever weird nerd shit you want to do. I do a lot of cross stitching, and I do not understand the jokes I'm making in those cross stitches, but people seem to like them. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm good.
Bye.
Bye.